What is the ideal step rate? Hey guys, it's JP, and this is a question I get asked quite frequently. For those who don't know me, I'm a physical therapist whose clinical expertise is on performance and injury management of endurance athletes, especially runners. This time, I will give some insight on step rate and my thoughts on this particular question. Now, for those who don't know, step rate, also known as cadence, is pretty much summed up as the number of steps you take in a certain amount of time. You will see many people running at different step rates as they run, which is why the question for what is the ideal step rate tends to arise. Now, plenty of people tend to throw out the magic number of 180 steps per minute as the ideal step rate. This was popularized by Jack Daniels' work, a famous running coach. Now, while this could be around the step rate seen in many elite runners for long distances, like marathons, it would be quite reductionist to simply believe that number is the ideal step rate everyone should go at. Let me explain why. First, step rate could be influenced by the intensity of the run. For example, if you watch these elite runners in their respective races, you'll notice significant differences in step rate. Here, you can watch Jim Walmsley, one of the best ultra-marathon runners in the world. During this specific clip, he is running during the Western States 100, which is a famous 100-mile trail race. When running these kind of races, you would need to run at an even lower intensity than you would for typical marathons to even make it through the whole race, which is one reason to explain the lower step rate. Then, you can watch Eliud Kipchoge as he ran the fastest marathon ever. Here, you will notice a slightly higher step rate here. This could make sense, as he could run at a higher intensity here considering this is a much shorter race than the previous one. The last clip I will show you is Usain Bolt during the 100-meter world record. Since this is a sprint, this is a max intensity run. And similar to what I mentioned before, you can see an even higher step rate here. Overall, typically the higher the intensity, the quicker the step rate is, and vice versa. Another problem about focusing on an ideal step rate is that step rate is not something that may always be constant, but rather it is dynamic and can change quite a bit within a race depending on plenty of factors. This can include having a slower step rate due to fatigue during the race, or even speeding it up as you try to finish the race strong. The third thing I will mention is your step rate also depends on you. Step rate is affected by multiple intrinsic factors such as your limb length, weight, basically your structural composition, as well as your muscles and tendons, such as how much force you produce from your legs. All these factors can be highly variable between different runners and can impact what your quote-unquote ideal step rate may be. Overall, from a performance standpoint, your body will typically self-optimize to the appropriate step rate depending on the current situation as you run. So maybe it is better to just focus on running and experiment based on what feels right for you. One last thing I will note is that these thoughts are mostly for someone who is not significantly limited by pain, as I may actually take a different approach and manipulate step rate to minimize pain and enhance function. Also, the information I presented largely applies for long distance runners, as I take a slightly different stance for sprinters. However, the differences on my thoughts on these topics are for another time. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys thought and any other topics you'd like me to go over. And as always, thank you for watching.